I'd like to call the meeting to order, please. Roll call.
Mayor Yanish.
Here.
Councilmember Reese.
Here.
Christensen.
Here.
Anderson.
Here.
Amon.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Dockin.
Here.
Fagerly.
Here.
DeBleek.
Here.
9 present, 0 absent.
Thank you. Would you all please stand as we say the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do we have any proposed additions or deletions to the agenda? Councilman Christensen?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I have one item under miscellaneous, if I may.
Thank you. I have an item that I would like to change in the agenda. If we can change item 8, which is the Willmar City Council Open Forum. Just trade places with the Moving Willmar Forward presentation by Mr. Nelson. If we could change that around, have Moving Willmar Forward before the open forum. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent items?
So moved. Second.
The motion has been made and seconded to approve the consent items as written. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. That motion carries. At this particular time, we will open the public hearing. The Truth in Taxation. Charlene, would you like to explain that to us?
Yeah, I do. There's a brief presentation here regarding the mayor's proposed 2013 budget that I'll run through. Oops, click the wrong button. Oh, there we go. Just a reminder that the City of Willmar is committed to providing responsible municipal service in an open, effective, and efficient manner to all citizens of the local and area community. The ultimate goal is to preserve and enhance the quality of life for future generations. That's the mission statement of the city. Brief summary in terms of our financial position, our financial picture for 2013. We are in a we do have a good financial picture for 2013. Our revenues have been stable. Our tax levy, our tax revenues are bringing in what we anticipated. We also are receiving the same allocation in 2013 as we were in 2012 for local government aid. So we're not seeing a reduction in that. We are seeing some new growth and development in the community as well. We also have a AA bond rating. We're able to maintain our basic services, and one of our goals for 2013 was building a capital improvements program, and we put together a 5-year plan. Taking a look at where we've been with the 2013 budget, you see the first column is the mayor's proposed budget, and then the second column is the mayor's revised. Our general operations were originally at $15,090,918. 918, excuse me. They are now at $15,232,125, and that is due mainly to the change in RAC 8 funding, which was a special revenue fund, and that is why you also see the decrease there in the special revenue fund from $919,000 down to $731,000. The total proposed budget was $31,777,295, and the revised budget for your consideration this evening is $31,730,616. 31 million, thank you. And it also includes and the general fund operating fund includes a $1.8 million transfer from the general fund over for capital improvements. You can see where our general fund revenues are major sources of revenue, the property tax and the franchise. Again, the change you see there between the proposed and the revised is primarily, again, due to the change of RAC 8 and incorporating that into the general fund budget and the general operations. And then you see again down at the bottom the total changes there from the $15,090,000 to the $15.2 million for the general fund. Our general fund expenditures Of course, they total up to the same, it's a balanced budget, so they will total to the revenues. The administration, the changes you see there in the mayor's proposed, the $543,386, and then that increase in revised under administration, $698,231. That, again, is due to primarily RAC 8 because that it will be incorporated into IT budget, which is part of the which is part of the administrator's office. Where we made the revenue changes, again, this is just the summary from the proposed to the revised. The revenue changes, we had about $220,735 in revenue changes in the general fund. That is the net reallocation of incorporating RAC 8 at $165,000. There was an increase in revenue based on our recently negotiated contract with the MUC for intergovernmental transfer. That it brought in an additional $40,000 in revenue, almost $41,000. And then the building services contract we have with Candy-Ojai County, that was not included in the proposed budget, but that should have been. That was simply an error by staff, and so that $15,000 is also revenue. These are the changes in expenditures that have been made since the proposed budget. These have been due to council action. Mayor and council salaries were decreased. Mayor, council travel and conferences was increased. Based upon the last discussion at the Finance Committee and later action this evening, we did anticipate the downtown flowers being included, so that is now shown as the $6,200. Again, the expenditures for RAC 8, $154,845,000. We had the police department wage settlement. That impacted the budget to the tune of $26,000. There is a reduction of savings there from the fire chief because the new fire chief was hired at a lower starting salary than the prior chief who retired. We have the library funding changes. We've also incorporated the change from the Historical Society. The airport management contract, again, that is pending. I mean, that will be acted upon this evening in the council, but we have anticipated that based upon the recommendation from the committee. And then the change made to the leadership perspectives funding. The net effect of the changes you can see there. We started with the $220,000 in additional revenue, additional expenditures of $183,000. That gave us a surplus of $37,569. We had a previous balance, and that gave us about the net available revenue of just under $93,000 there. And that was allocated. Those funds were then allocated to reduce the levy, or the proposed levy for the street program. And this is the levy increase that is proposed for 2013. The general operations, just under $4 million, $3,992,734. The street program, an additional levy of $147,000, and that shows you what. And then there is that shows you a proposed increase of $147,000 in the 2013 levy over the 2012 levy. And just to remind you that even though the levy was reduced by the $93,000, we will still be doing $240,000 worth of additional street work, and that was to be done mainly in overlay. And I just put up this slide. It is a repeat of the earlier slide, but again, it just summarizes what the proposed 2013 budget is in terms of general operations, capital improvements, the special revenue and internal funds, debt service, and then enterprise, which is our wastewater fund, and that shows a total funds for 2013 of $31,730,616. And with that, I certainly could answer any questions. You can accept any public comment, and/or the finance director is also available to answer any questions.
This is the public hearing, so if there's any comments, please comment on the budget now. I do have a comment, Charlene. Would you, just to clarify and make sure that everyone understands, go through the levy again?
Sure. If I can get back to that slide. The proposed levy for 2013, the general operations levy is $3,992,734. We would be proposing to levy an additional $147,000 this year, and that would be dedicated to street improvements.
Thank you.
By the council.
If there are no further questions, I will close the public hearing.
Mr. Mayor,
I'm sorry?
I believe there's somebody back there wanting to speak to the taxation. And Arlen, this would be the time to speak if you're going to speak. Didn't want to? I guess not. Okay.
Okay. Then we'll close the public hearing. And I understand that we will discuss this at another finance meeting.
Well, we're going to take action on the proposed budget in the Finance Committee meeting, minutes, when we do the minutes in a little while.
Okay, thank you. So with that in mind, we will move on to the Willmar moving Willmar forward presentation by Wayne Nelson. Wayne, would you please introduce yourself? And
Yes, I'm Wayne Nelson. I live at 1505 Hanson Drive Southwest in Willmar, Minnesota. I've lived in Willmar since 1961. Honorable Mayor, City Council members, City staff, and members of the general public, I'm here representing tonight moving Willmar forward, working together, building a better place to live and work in Willmar, Minnesota. We appear before you tonight with a common interest, the well-being of the city of Willmar. There is some commonality amongst us all. You are good people trying to do good things, and that includes the mayor, the city council, city administrator, and city staff. We are coming forward united to express our public concern for the need to improve the manner in which elected and appointed officials conduct business within and outside city government. There are many challenges facing our city. These challenges include the governmental finances, service delivery issues, in addition to growing perception of mistrust, cooperation, and mutual respect, the relationship between the mayor and the city administrator, and the lack of a roadmap. I hold before you here the roadmap that we have at Heritage Bank. That includes the mission statement, our values, what is our strategy to achieve our vision? What are our strategic priorities? And how will we know if we succeed or not, in addition to some performance metrics to measure that success? Once again, why are we here this evening? We are concerned citizens, both private and public citizens, and we had people coming to us asking the same question and sharing the same concerns. What is happening with the mayor and the city council? We received recurring comments related to micromanagement, visible strained relationships, is the mayor's health okay, and a perceived lack of trust. Moving Willmar forward, you may be asking, who are we? This is a listing of our members. As you can see, there are leaders of businesses, past leaders, and present leaders in this community. We are united and have mutual goals, and what we see as goals to accomplish the work that can be done. We want to increase the level of mutual respect. We want to have better cooperation, more trust, civility, and we hope to reestablish a shared understanding of the roles and responsibilities of each of the following: the mayor, the city council, city administrator, and city staff. Our views of city leadership is as follows. We consider the mayor to be the chairman of the board. The city council is the board of directors, and the city administrator is the city's CEO. That might be brought up because of the number of business people that you see in our membership. But each has their own responsibility. Mayor is chairman of the board. He leads the board in its work. But primarily, he's futuristic, dealing with strategic planning and vision, defining where the city of Willmar is going, helps formulate the business plan, and sets policy along with the board. The city council serves as the board of directors of this $31 million business. It assists the chairman in setting policy, assists in the formulation of the strategic plan, formulates the business plan, hires the most qualified CEO, which has been done with the hiring of Charlene Stevens, and is also futuristic. They're concerned with the future of this fine community. The city administrator is the CEO of the city of Willmar, responsible for running the $31 million business called the city of Willmar. Reports to the chairman and the board of directors on the progress of managing the budget of the city and how the employees and staff are progressing in meeting the strategic plan of the city. The city administrator has a defined job description that outlines the duties and responsibilities of her position. Their CEO also ensures that the employees and staff are qualified, trained, and capable of performing their jobs, and once again follows the business plan as established by the chairman and the board of directors. So what's next? We are suggesting strategies that will do the following. Get to an understanding of the roles of the mayor and city council, and also understand the responsibilities of the mayor and the city council. Our first strategy pertains to governance. A level of education is needed to fully understand open meeting laws, data practices, and conflict of interest. All of this education would be part of the council's reorganization process in January of 2013. As a resource, the League of Minnesota Cities provides this information. Additionally, the roles and responsibilities. We need to develop an understanding of the weak mayor form of city government as adopted in the city charter. Strategy number 2, work with the League of Minnesota Cities on developing a plan for a system of meeting governance. And this council took a step forward on this matter at their November 19th meeting by adopting the revised city charter, which included the council adopting an authorized set of parliamentary rules that apply to council meetings as well as all commissions, boards, and committees. We congratulate you for this action. Strategy number 3, visionary. We would strongly encourage the council to perform the organizational review that has been discussed. And why now? Well, we feel that you need to prepare now for a future with less governmental financial resources. We have to determine if we can do more with less. Identify ways to cooperate with other governmental entities to provide services in a more efficient and cost-effective manner. Investigate and evaluate options already implemented by others, including visits to observe firsthand how changes were implemented. We'd like to call this adopting best practices. Completion now allows for implementation during windows of opportunity, like pending retirements. And how can we get this accomplished? First of all, find a knowledgeable firm to complete the review. Include study of organizational reviews already completed and implemented. Examples like that are the Municipal Utilities Commission and Kansas County. We strongly urge that you involve current city employees from the beginning in the entire process and be open to their suggestions. They best understand how services are delivered now and may have alternative ways they could be delivered in the future. By involving them, this also increases the likelihood that current employees will have some understanding and ownership of the new options when selected and implemented. It'll also assist current employees in recognizing that changes will be occurring, and their input and knowledge increases the likelihood of successful implementation. Vision 2040. We congratulate you on your support of Vision 2040, but we do need active participation by the mayor, city council, and city administration. Some of you were previously involved in the Vision 2020 process, and the need to continue your involvement in Vision 2040 would be very beneficial for all participating. Community leadership engagement. There are a tremendous amount of personal resources available to assist in reaching the new normal that we'll be facing, that all of us will be facing in 2040. There is the next organization, Leadership Perspective graduates, Land and Leadership Program graduates, and the number of those graduates is huge. Your decision to withdraw financial support from the Leadership Perspective program, which is by far and away the largest program training leaders in our community, has given us a reason to pause. Working together, building a better place to live and work. The Moving Forward team is ready to assist you. Partnerships can be formed to actively participate with the City of Willmar. Past history has shown that Willmar is a community that will work together in order to move forward. We can and have worked together to reach consensus on issues. Examples that come to mind are the All-American City program and again, Vision 2020. You've already seen a copy of this. This is the City of Willmar mission statement. Here are your goals. Don't need to repeat those. You've already seen them. But this statement includes the goals that would be accomplished if some of the stated work we were talking about is done together. And if you truly support the goals that you have outlined, you should be willing to accept the suggestions laid before you this evening. So what are we asking? We're asking to work together, respect our differences, and stand together for the good of the City of Willmar and begin with a roadmap. So you might ask, what can we do? We ask that you exhibit leadership and vision tonight and take the first step. We would request the mayor and council move forward on authorizing the organizational review of the City of Willmar. I thank you for listening and for your service to the City of Willmar. I don't know if there are any questions.
I have a comment, a couple of comments, if I may. First of all, the issue of my health, let's straighten that out. A while back, I took a fall. And 2 days later, I had a doctor's appointment doing my physical exam, my regular annual physical exam. And the doctor suggested, why don't you take a brain scan, just to be sure. And contrary to what most of the people here think, they found a brain. And so I'm okay. I want to get that straightened out, you know, so that people understand that.
And we're pleased.
Thank you. Councilman Christensen, did you have a comment?
Yes, I do. I wasn't going to, but I figured I needed to respond since I've been the brunt of a lot of editorials. First of all, I want to thank you and your committee for the comprehensive working together report. Your efforts taking time and giving thought to each strategy you have outlined are appreciated by me and the rest of the council. I do hope that you will return to committee meeting in the weeks ahead, and we will make time to ask questions, delve into further areas that you feel worthy of our attention. I believe that we have more shared values of how to reach goals for Willmar than your report might lead someone to think. However, all government units are undergoing change, and everyone doesn't accept nor adapt to change. Our change in Willmar is to more literally accept that the mayor and council are responsible to manage and supervise the affairs of the city. The former city administrator imposed boundaries for the former mayor, and we accepted it as a council. Mayor Yanish, our new administrator, and the 2012 City Council are working through these changes. Unfortunately, this has been made more difficult than need be by a lack of understanding on the part of the newspaper and by some members of your report group. This constant barrage of criticism, violating all rules of civility, and no facts to support mischievous allegations are unhelpful, to say the least. Therefore, I need to share this with you. I've entitled it Coincidence, Conspiracy, Civility, or the Ethics, with a question mark. We all know that coincidences happen, but not so much in politics. There has been a chain of events that happened leading up to this presentation by this group, and it started with an article on the front page of a local newspaper interviewing a sitting council person. The headline was, "Stop asking questions and start listening." Following that article, for the next week or two, there were 4 more editorials put in the local paper, written by 4 members of your group, that were demeaning, mean-spirited, and directed at our mayor, Councilman Ahman, and myself, and the council in general. Once again, coincidence, conspiracy, civility, or ethical, with a question mark. Then I received an email from a member of this group that had an attached email to it that referred to this entire council as knuckleheads. That's all of us. Here are some other concerns that were listed in that email, and I will quote them to you so you don't think they're coming from a third-party conversation. Quote number 1, "I'm concerned about the annual organizational meeting. There will only be 7 council members voting, and will King Ron and his court gang up on the others to get what they want, including the king as mayor pro tem?" Quote, second one, "Then if Frank is deemed unfit or resigns for health reasons, does King Ron take over?" Next quote, "It also weighs on my mind in the consideration of the run for council and not feeling confident that one can lean on Dennis to lead." Coincidence? Conspiracy? Civility? Ethical? And to top it all off, 2 days ago, there's an editorial in the paper by our local editor that continued to demean, demoralize, and portray the mayor, Councilman Ahman, and me as not worthy of serving the city that we live in. Coincidence? Conspiracy? Civility? Ethical? Mr. Mayor, I suggest we get on to the next agenda item.
Thank you very much. I think that, does anyone else have any questions or comments? Councilman Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to thank the group for their efforts. And as you were doing your presentation, I was sitting here looking at our goals and priorities, and you put those up at the end. But to expand on them a little bit, a lot of things that you said, we have agreed to. On leadership, for instance, it's build trust and teamwork through enhanced unity within the City Council. We all want to do that. I mean, that's a given. We all want to do that. Engage in discussion about roles and responsibilities. You brought it up. We've already said that we want to do that. These things are printed in the second page of our packet every time we have a meeting. So I'm not reading something that's new and out of the ordinary. Under operations, it's engage in a study of the traditional methods and practices of the city, work with the county, schools, and higher education entities to cooperate, share resources, and reduce duplication of services. Things that you've highlighted for us, things that we have already agreed we need to work on. So again, thank you for your group and the ideas that you brought forward.
Thank you, Mr. Nelson.
You're welcome. Thank you. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'd like to say something, too. And I wasn't even prepared for this, but I came to the council prior to that article coming out. I didn't talk to anybody. Nobody knew I was doing that whatsoever. That was totally Doug Reese. I didn't even know if I was going to go through with it the night that I did it. And I didn't say, stop asking questions. What I said was, we need to start listening to our experts. Much of what Wayne said tonight, we need to start listening to our employees. And we have experts. We have, and I pointed at Charlene at that time, our city administrator, because I feel we haven't been listening to her. And I believe very strongly, and I said it that night, that Charlene has a vision for the future of this city, and I appreciate her greatly. And I never picked on one city council person or the mayor. I said the city council and the mayor need to start listening. And I didn't say stop asking questions. I said if you have a question about something, ask the question prior to the council meeting and get your full information before you come to the meeting. And I even said that night that I have been upset at times and gone to the city administrator and said, what in the world's going on? I don't understand this. And after it's explained to me, I either understand or I come and then I question it here. So there was no conspiracy on my part. It was totally on my own. Thank you.
Thank you. That being said, we'll move into the next.
I think
Mr. Mayor.
I'm sorry,
Mr. Dockin had a question.
Councilman Dockin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Welcome.
Thank you all for coming. Appreciate your coming. I got a couple of things I want to talk about. Ron mentioned the micromanagement. Many of you know I ran this time again and was reelected by my constituents who I represent. If you look at the organizational chart, you folks are at the top. Citizens, okay? That's who we serve. Right below it is the council. You may have heard my commercial on radio, KWLM. I said, a citizen like you looked through all of the council packs like we have here and came up with a total of 206 resolutions and motions that we acted on from January of 2012 until mid-October of 2012. The total number of resolutions and motions were 206. How many of those 206 do you think were passed unanimously? 8-0, 7-0, 6-0. 206. 200. The council was unanimous on 200 of 206 motions and resolutions. My question is, Are we micromanaging? We're not. So we asked questions on your behalf as our citizens on 6 of those to get clarification. I think we're doing our job, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
I've asked for any number of times for greater documented due diligence from our staff on what we're doing. For your sake, the citizens, why are we doing it? Is it affordable in the next 1 to 3 years for us as a city? Because we live in really uncertain times. The federal government is talking about going off the cliff. I don't think we are. But more importantly, once we do this, is it sustainable? If we have this written so that we can go back and use it as a reference, what a wonderful thing that is. Rather than saying, oh, Mr. Dockin, you'll recall. No, I don't recall that because that's a version of what you said to me the last time. And so on your behalf, I'm asking for staff to do greater due diligence, put it on our website so everybody understands what we're doing. We have a new charter, and quite frankly, I don't think some, Wayne, of what you did, and it was wonderful, follows the charter. Some of my questions that Mr. Bolden asked me are on the website on what I hold as the most important things for the city. You can go there and read those. I'm glad that, if you would. And then finally, I think you said find a knowledgeable firm. We have a knowledgeable firm. It's called the League of Minnesota Cities. This is navigating the new normal. Not the new normal that's a no, N-O. It's a new normal that's a K-N-O-W, no. How we do government. I held, prior to my reelection, community conversations with Fourth Ward. I think we have to integrate the citizens in what we're doing and why we're doing. They're the ones that elected us. So there's a lot of great documents out there that will help us do the things we need to do as a council. Anyway, again, thank you all for coming. I appreciate your interest, and thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You're welcome.
Mr. Mayor.
I'm sorry, Councilman?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to thank the group for being here. I know it put a lot of work and effort into this, into your whole presentation. But I think it reiterates a lot of things that we need to be doing, build trust and teamwork. By doing that, we need to build mutual respect and responsibilities to move Willmar forward, move this community forward with visionary and best practices. We need to cooperate with other entities and form partnerships that we can move forward in a positive manner. So I think with your help and visionary of the council, that can be done, and Willmar can move forward and be the great community that we all want it to be. Thank you.
Councilman Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I had a few comments and questions for Wayne and the group. I appreciate you coming here tonight. It's good to see this type of participation, community involvement. It shows that we are a community and we get together and discuss issues, and that's openly and candidly. That's what we're all about. I'm just curious, what actions, or Wayne, what actions or lack of actions of the council provoked you 14 individuals to form this group?
As I indicated before, not necessarily any actions or inactions. We primarily gathered together because of what other citizens were seeing out in the public arena here at the council table. Some of the things that they saw that they didn't think was right or was concerning to them. So initially we got together to discuss some of those issues, and then it's grown from there with input from others
Not the 16 of us that are all listed there, but we've had conversations with others about the items that we talked about. We put 4 of them up there. There's one was the micromanagement, one was the health of the mayor, the other 2 was the strained relationship with the city administrator and the mayor, and the perception of lack of trust. So those things initiated the conversation and the formation of the group.
Okay. As elected body of individuals, we're elected by the citizens. And I believe that one of our many obligations is to have an open line of communication. We're here to be receptive to everyone, whether it be criticism of change or maybe even hopes of change. Most of the council in our group, in your group, we know each other. We know of each other. We've talked. We've had dialogue before. We've been in meetings. We discussed issues. We've been together at social events, shared stories together, and told a joke or two, or some of us even worshiped together. We're all part of this community. But why haven't any of your concerns been made known before this? I try to find myself open to anybody, any individual, regardless if it's one individual who has a concern about a rental property, or whether it be a businessman who employs a lot of people that has some concerns. They're all equal in my judgment, because we're supposed to react and take action on their concerns. But if a person or a group contacts me, that's what I do. I get in touch with them. I try to set it to the appropriate department and or the appropriate committee to discuss it, to talk about it, hash it over. And why wasn't this done? I mean, we see each other and have seen each other for months and months on end. We've been at social gatherings together, and not one of you, 14 people, has called me. Or I don't know if they called any other council people or discussed this with us. I find it kind of shocking.
Well, first of all, I think some of the issues are very sensitive, and the fact that this hasn't been a long process. The conversations and our meetings have taken place over the last 30 to 35 days, so it's not something that's been growing and building up over the last year. So the period of time is one thing. Secondly, I think we wanted the same message to go to everybody at one time. And you've heard the telephone game. So if we have one person talking to you and another person talking to Councilman Anderson and spreading it out over a number of people, different people talking to different members of the city council and the mayor, the message is not unified and the same. So that's why we decided to do it in this arena with one person delivering the message.
How many people, you're talking about concerns, or people have come forward and talked to you about city operations? I think
I don't have the number.
I think that's ongoing all the time. And everybody sits around a cup of coffee at their coffee clutch and they talk about our government, our city government.
Well, being a politician, you're only making half the people happy at any one time, because most of the other people don't. The other half doesn't like what you're doing.
Yeah.
I understand that.
Well, I'm just a little concerned. I think the more appropriate way, if we're going to have open dialogue and trust, I believe the way to do it is through communication. What you're doing in this particular case is you're bringing your formulated opinion of 14 individuals. And I'm not opposed to listening to groups, don't get me wrong, of 14 individuals to say that this is not being done right, in your opinion. And, I would much rather sit down with you and talk about these issues one-on-one, and we could bring it through the committee and polish our agenda or what we're not doing right. But I've heard nothing but compliments about how we're doing financially in this community and how we're keeping our taxes low.
And we have no
A few complaints about the streets, though. I want to share that with you. And I think we're all aware of what might be coming down the road with that. But I guess in the future, my phone's open. Yep. You can call me anytime.
And we'll be.
And rather than talk behind our backs, I'd much prefer to talk to you personally.
No problem with
and for any other individual.
Thank you, Mr. Ahmed. My name is David Baker. I live at 280 23rd Street Southeast, and I'm part of the 14 group. Proud to be of it, actually. We came here for one thing tonight, and that was to ask you to take action on finding a better way to lead the organization. I have talked to many of you counselors one-on-one. I had a great meeting with the mayor a couple weeks ago. I've talked with different folks. I talked around on the phone as well a few weeks back and we had the same question. Something wasn't quite right with Mr. Mayor. And we can have these honest dialogues. Didn't know that he fell down. Thank you for explaining that tonight, Frank. What I'm concerned about, and I think what our group is concerned about, is it's not working as well as it should. It's hard to put every little finger on it because you want to be sensitive. You've got the cameras rolling. You've got people out here wondering what's going on, and we just are saying that you've got a management assessment. You've got a lot of retirements coming up. I'm hoping that the leadership moment happens tonight when instead of sending us back to committee, that somebody might want to say, let's talk about this, maybe a management assessment that will make a commitment to putting this city on a new roadmap. That's what I guess we were hoping to do tonight. We're not trying to get everybody with the defense shields up. We're asking that you have that leadership moment, and we appreciate that.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
One comment. Thank you for stating that. I was watching television the other night in Channel 18, just to let you know, and I was Rack 8, and the school board was on. And I heard the school board discuss their ongoing performance and how they're going to deal with it. And they hired an individual to deal with a lot of the issues that you're concerned about or your groups are concerned about. And the cost of the school system, our tax dollars, $10,300. But what he was saying and what this presenter was saying was excellent. He's professional. That's what he does for his career. He works with cities and school boards, dealing with issues of dialect, how to dialogue with one another, how to bring forward the goals and objectives that we've prioritized in our retreat as a group, hearing from our constituents what their priorities are, and to how to refocus and regroup every 3 months to see where we're going, what we have accomplished, and what we haven't accomplished. I was planning on bringing that up. In fact, I forwarded that information to Charlene, and I believe she maybe even spoke to that individual today. There are things that we're doing, and as far as the ongoing efforts of the council, we have different personalities here. I love to work with every one of these people, and I'll work with anyone, anytime. But sometimes you're going to have differences of opinions. We're not going to have everything go smooth all the time, and that's just the way it is. We have to form a consensus, and so I hope that your group doesn't feel that we are not functional by any means. I would rather have a person that asks questions, that confronts me and questions my vote or questions my thoughts, rather than a person that doesn't say anything. That's how we get things done, and I appreciate your comments. Thank you.
2 responses. First of all, we've asked that you consider the authorization of an organizational review, and we hope that that's the leadership moment that Davis referred to. If money is an obstacle to getting that done, this group has a minimum $5,000 available to you to complete that study. So if your $10,000 cost to the organization review, if that's the case, we've got half of that already committed to you. You just made a comment about having your own opinions and having dissension at times. Councilman Dockin talked about 280 resolutions being passed. Now, that kind of contradicts the fact that you have different opinions and have discussion and disagreements. If you truly have that, then why aren't there more 5-3 votes, 6-2 votes, 7-1 votes instead of 8-0? And because we think you should be able to speak your piece and should be able to respect opinions of others, should be able to vote your conscience, and then accept the decision and move forward. So, and most recently there was a council meeting where there was a motion made, a second made, discussion, and when it was determined that it was not going to pass, that motion was withdrawn, the second was withdrawn. If you really have what you're telling us, that vote would have been taken. And I know it would not have been 8-0. Thank you again.
Any further discussion?
Well, yeah. Mr. Mayor, I think we've had a request, and we're saying we're receptive to our public, and we've had a request that we take action here tonight to move ahead with the organizational overview. For lack of better motion, I think I would just make a motion that we commit to having an outside firm assist us in doing the organizational overview.
Second.
Can I make a comment on that? I would like to make a comment on that, and that would be, was this the same motion that was defeated a while back?
No. The motion that was defeated before was to spend $17,000 with Springstead's to perform the organizational overview.
Okay. Can we take a motion, Charlene?
I believe you can. The city clerk can correct me in terms of protocol, but I believe you can.
Yes, sir. The motion has been made and seconded.
Mr. Mayor.
Sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Discussion, I'm assuming.
There is a discussion.
Speaking of motions, there's a lot of emotions also. This isn't the place to discuss and pass this particular motion this evening. I mean, we need to go to our committee structure, discuss it, why are we doing it, what are we doing, like Jim says, and why are we doing it. You know, we can't be pressured into doing this tonight by an outside group.
I think you're right, Councilman.
I mean, this is why would you do this to us? I'm really curious. Why would this group try to pressure us into this? You know, we're not against having an outside firm come in and look at reorganizing, restructuring. We are not against that. The motion that was made that we voted down was to have Springstead do that. And they have a conflict of interest with us because we pay them a lot of money during the year. They cannot be objective in restructuring us. They're going to tell us everything we want to hear because they want to keep doing business. But I suggest this thing go to a committee instead of passing a motion tonight. There's just too many emotions in the room. Quoting Ms. Schwantes a few weeks ago. There's too many emotions here. Let's send it to a committee, talk about it, do the right thing. If it had been my say, I would have said this group should have come to a committee before coming to the council. I mean, that's how we're structured.
That was a legal opinion, by the way.
Yeah, it should have come to a committee meeting prior to a full council meeting. Anyway, I speak against this motion. I would say send it to a committee and discuss it there.
Councilman Anderson?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, you know, I have been a big advocate of doing the organizational study, and if I'm hearing some willingness on the part of some of the council members that didn't want to do it before, but maybe are willing now to do it with some proposed changes, I think we need to do whatever we have to do to get that done. And I say that, again, in the spirit that we really want to get that done. If I'm misreading that, then I think we should vote tonight. If I'm reading it correctly, that if it goes to committee and we will come forward with a proposal and a thought, you know, we're going to accomplish the same thing and everybody will feel better about it. I think that would be the way to do it.
I agree with both of you that it should go back to the committee, and I'd like to refer it back to the committee. Which
There's a
committee would
motion
that
on the
go
table,
to?
Mr. Mayor.
You have to deal with the motion, Mr. Mayor.
There's a motion on the table, and I believe Councilmember DeBleek has a comment, or he's
Okay.
indicating his.
I think we can discuss this right here now. We've got, you know, community involvement. There's members of the community here. We can talk about it. I think it's something that we need to do. We need to have this organizational structure review so we know what to plan for, what things we want to emphasize within our city structure. There, you can say there's a number of retirements coming up in the next few years. How are we going to structure our city and our the way we deliver government. I think these are things all this organizational study will tell us. And as far as the new normal and being visionary, I think this is all part of that. But I don't think it needs to go back to committee. I think we can make the decision on whether or not we're going to commit to it and do it right here and now.
Councilman, I have to ask you for your opinion on this.
Mr. Mayor, are you asking if it's there's some legal requirement that it go to committee?
Is there a legal requirement?
The answer is there is no legal requirement. You have a motion, you can vote on it now if you want. I mean, it's
Okay, I do have to ask you this. What if the motion fails?
then no action is taken.
Councilman Johnson?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess I'd like a clarification on the motion. My understanding of what we were talking about earlier, or Mr. Nelson's remarks, were that we proceed with a request for proposals from organizations to do such a study. I'm not sure if the motion pinpointed that aspect of it or not.
No, it didn't. All I said was that we move ahead with it, and I had considered making that motion that we have a request for RFPs with the same scope of services that we had last time. If you're more comfortable with that, I am fine with that.
I mean, I would be for one. I think we should know what direction we're going and have some kind of a roadmap, if you will, of what we expect to, or what we're looking for. That's what an RFP is about. So,
well, if you're more comfortable with that, I would
It's an amendment.
just amend my motion that we look for or send out a request for RFPs with the same scope of services that we had with our last request.
I would agree with that.
That's the second.
Yep.
Kevin, would you read back to us the actual motion?
The current amendment is to direct a request for proposal for an outside firm using the same scope of services that were used earlier months, just earlier. We'll find the date of those.
Is that a motion or a resolution?
These are standard motions.
Pardon me?
But they're standard motions, but it's an amendment. It's got a second by DeBleek, and so that takes action before you work on the original motion.
I think it's kind of cumbersome to have both of them because they're doing the same thing.
Well, the first one's probably more philosophical, that you're committing to an outside firm to do a management overview.
Okay. All right.
Councilman Christensen?
thank you, Mr. Mayor. Once again, here we are debating whether or not to vote for this motion that is going to have the same recommendations as the other motion. I don't recall what they are. I don't know what we're talking about. I don't know what the 5 reasons we're doing this are. I want to know what they are. I want to know what I'm voting on. This motion is to recommend to get RFPs, to have somebody come in and do a reorganizational structure for our city council. What are the 5 reasons we're doing it? What's it going to cost? Why are we doing it? And what were those? What were the same? They weren't recommendations. The same. What's the term you used, Kevin?
Criteria in the
What's the same criteria? What is it? Do you have it listed?
Not before
I don't recall it. Does anybody here recall what those criteria was? Then you shouldn't be voting on it. We need to vote on things that we know what we're voting on. I don't know what that criteria is. You know, come to think of it, I don't know if we discussed it in committee either, that criteria. They sent the proposals out with some criteria, but I don't recall what that was. Why would we vote on this not knowing what that criteria is? Folks, I don't run my business that way.
I don't think we have a choice right now. We have to vote on it, do we not?
That is correct.
no further discussion, we'll vote on the First Amendment.
Yes, sir? Just sending out the request of proposals, not the philosophical one of committing to an outside firm.
And all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no.
No.
That motion carries. And now we vote on,
Committing to an outside firm,
The amended motion.
yep,
we
to
vote on
conduct an overview of the city structure using the RFP process.
And again, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no.
No.
That motion carries. We'll move into the 3-minute limit on the open forum. I have
Mr. Mayor, maybe a recess would be in order if we're going to have a lot of people leaving.
okay, let's do that. Let's take a recess. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, let's be back here in 10 minutes. reconvene the meeting. And with that, we'll move into the public forum part of our meeting, and we have 3 people that have signed up to speak. Mr. Gilman?
Hi, I'm Gary Gilman. I live at 500 Northwest 34th Street here in Willmar. It's quite a meeting tonight. I want to say first that all you folks in the council, you don't devote an awful lot of your time. I've never completely agreed with all of you all of the time. Some of you know that. But I respect the work and the hard work you do. I remember the first time I came to the council, must have been almost 30 years ago. It was on a housing issue that we, in our neighborhood, 150 to 200 residents opposed. And after that meeting, I'll never forget a man that came up and said, this was just wrong the way this happened. And we were treated with a great deal of, we talk about courtesy. As residents, we heard comments coming from the council that we were racist. They were, to me, totally unprofessional. And I don't think I've heard anything like that since. But I just want to say that one of those fellows came up to me and said, "This is upsetting me. I've decided to run for the council." Now, I've known that man for 30 years, and I don't agree with him 100% of the time, most of the time. But I know one thing about him. I could always stand alongside of him. I know where he stands. And that's Councilman Christensen. He's devoted an awful lot of his time to the city, not for any personal vendetta, but to make sure the city prospers and moves ahead as best as it can. It'd be nice if we knew that was exactly the case of all the parties that spoke earlier. My reason for coming here, though, is because you can't really trust everything you read in the paper anymore. And no offense, Doug, there's a great article that you put in there, and this is the public forum, so I didn't put it in there. I know, but it was all about you. And in that article, it was a nice article. You looked good. It was a nice picture. But it didn't state, and as I understand it, the cost for a special election is somewhere in excess of $5,000. I don't know why, if you knew what you were going to do, you didn't put your spot on the ballot so we could have an election last fall and save the taxpayers that money for the work and cost of a special election. That's all I really wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gilman. Appreciate it. Mr. Kelly Welch.
Hi.
Hi there.
It's good to be back in this room. I haven't been here since 1989. Things are a little electric tonight, aren't they, folks? It's always great to take a recess, get back in that room where you can really get among friends, isn't it?
Close call.
First of all, I'm Kelly Welch. I live at 1304 23rd Street Southeast. And I want to say, isn't it great to live in a community where we have a group of individuals, a group of people that get together, professional people, they're so interested in our government that they take the time out of their workday and they take the time out of their weeks to put together a plan and some motives and some goals and some ways and means to get there. I think that speaks well not only of our community, but our professional community and the interest that they have in government and wanting to make it better. I think they're to be congratulated on that. When you run for council, I didn't learn this before I ran for council. I was on the council for 12 years, 78 to 89, somewhere in there, 90. And I didn't know that hot water is one of the risks that you take when you take a seat there. But it is. So you're going to get into hot water every once in a while, and you just have to accept that as a way of life. And it seems to me that there's a resentment on the part of some of the feedback that you've been getting. G.K. Chesterton, that wonderful English author, said, I love, and I agree with him, I love getting into hot water. And those of you who served in the council with me know and remember, Reese and Alman, that I loved getting into hot water. And Chesterton said he loved getting into hot water because it keeps you clean. And that's true. It gets all that stuff out of you. I also like to ask questions. And I think there is a duty and a responsibility on a council person to ask questions any time they want to. And if it makes somebody else uncomfortable, so be it. And if you're a little bit uncomfortable with what this organization is asking, trying to do, so be it. That's part of the hot water. Oh, by the way, I also have $5,000, but I'm not committing it to their organizational thing. It's for Maxine and the family. I've heard people say that they blame the media. I believe in what Thomas Jefferson said about an informed citizenry making and being a strong part of a republic, right at the cornerstone of it. And I believe that. I don't just want some of the information. I don't want just the information that you're comfortable with. I don't want just the information that you'd like to have come out to me. I want a newspaper that will dig all the information and put it out in front of me. No matter how uncomfortable it makes me feel about you or about myself or about my community, I want it there. I don't think we should blame the media. They have a bias. Sometimes they don't have a bias. But we have our biases that makes theirs look a little tweaked too. And I think we ought to keep that in mind. I don't like the idea of prejudice. I love the idea of the West Central Integration Collaborative effort. There are 14 cities in this county, in this area, that it takes into consideration. And I think $41,000 or in the neighborhood of $40,000 is a pretty good deal for bringing those cities and those towns closer together. I was going to ask the mayor about some of his comments that appeared in the paper recently. I personally, Marianish, I respect you, respect everybody here that's doing it, that's doing their job here. But I personally, I think that you had an out when you said you fell. If you had just left it there, we'd all say, well, there it is. But you say you're well, and that's great. That's great to hear. The comment that really rang my chime was the one concerning the idea of we have a new mayor, get over it, and upset. Those two things back to back. We have a new mayor, get over it, and upset, end of discussion. And I don't think, in my opinion, and you know that when I was on the council I asked tons of questions. I don't think I would have, if had I been sitting there, I would have let you stay with the gavel at that time. I'd have just kept asking questions. But that's me. I don't know which mayor you were referring to. If we go back to Hodap, or we go back to Lynch, or we go back to Ferguson, or we go back to Ole Reynolds, or we go back to Heike. I don't know which mayor made the mistakes. I don't know which one did it. I was there when there were 3 of them, and they were good. And I didn't hear any comments about racism at any of our meetings. I don't know if it happened when I was on the council. I'm not a fan of that. Those are my comments. Those are my questions. Thank you for your service. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Mr. Sullivan.
What would the council do without John Sullivan at 508 Southeast 13th Street not having something to say? You guys would be bored to death. My only comment tonight is I praise this organization for what they did. I think it's a little elitist, in my own opinion. I think they should enjoin people with a little common sense that has some knowledge of the city working. I think they're jumping off the cliff a little bit, but they're doing a damn good job of what they're doing. I just think they were a little too, I don't know if you need a financial statement to join them or what, but anyway, that's a bad comment. And I did talk to two members of it, and the first one I talked to was a very good friend, I thought. And I used an acronym that I shouldn't have. Well, evidently that got spread out. So I know how Mr. Warner feels, because I would read the definition of that acronym this afternoon. And it was said in complete jest, but boy, be careful what you say. I think you do need to do an organizational study of the city, and I do agree that this should have been done in committee. That's where you function. If you're going to function with a workshop session like some cities do, where all 8 of you are participating, that's a different situation. But you work a committee way. And I think it should, if you're going to stay that way, you should utilize it. One last recommendation, put a clock up there underneath that speaker so we know when our 3 minutes is up. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. Are there any comments from the audience or from the council? If not, we'll move on to the next, which is the Labor Relations Committee report for November 20th. Councilman Ahmed.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. We met November 20th, 2012 in Conference Room 1. Others present included the Police Chief, Weifels, our Officer Mary Lee Dorn, Kevin McGrath, Business Agent LALS, and City Attorney Robert Scott by conference call. Item number 1 on the agenda was to close the meeting pursuant to Statute Section 13D.05, Subdivision 2A2. Chair Ahmed announced that the meeting will be closed pursuant to Minnesota statutes to discuss internal affairs data relating to allegations of law enforcement personnel misconduct. Mr. Anderson, Councilman Anderson, moved to close the meeting with Councilmember Johnson, seconded the motion, which carried. Item number 2 was the meeting was reopened at 5:30 p.m. The meeting was reopened upon motion and seconded and carried. Item number 3 was we closed the meeting pursuant to Minnesota Sections 13.D, Subdivision 3B. We announced that the meeting will be closed pursuant to that subdivision section. To discuss pending litigation, Law Enforcement Labor Services, Inc., labor contract grievance. Motion was made and seconded to close the meeting, which was carried unanimously. Item number 4 was we reopened the meeting at 6:10 upon motion and seconded and carried. Councilman Anderson made a motion, and seconded by Councilman Reese, to deny the grievance and authorize the city attorney to seek resolution, and the motion carried. And with that, I'll move the recommendation of the committee unless there's any further questions.
Second.
The motion has been made and seconded to
File.
Pardon?
To file the minutes.
File the minutes. And is there any discussion on that? Councilman Christensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The motion that was made and seconded and approved for deny the grievance. Where do we stand on that? Is it just the committee that makes that motion and that's it? Nobody.
It's outlined in the LALS agreement and our labor contracts that the issues go to the Labor Relations Committee. And I believe we're bound by that by state statute also as far as dealing with these issues. So it cannot be attended by the full council. That's my interpretation of it. If I'm wrong, please clarify it.
Let the city attorney clarify, I think.
Yes, Councilmember Christensen, the labor agreement sets forth the procedure for which these grievances are handled, and we had to follow that to the letter. So that's how.
Okay, and it states that strictly the Labor Committee, the 4 members determine
that's
the outcome.
At that step of the grievance process, that's correct. That's where that's the forum that was the Labor Committee.
Okay. I guess I wasn't aware of that. Of course, we haven't had any grievance for a number of years. Okay, that was it.
So the
Thank you.
motion that we have is to file the minutes.
Correct.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. That motion carries. The next item on the agenda is the Finance Committee report for November 26th. Councilman Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First item on our agenda was the mayor's proposed budget. Recommendations for the 2013 proposed budget resulting from council work session were held just prior to the meeting were discussed. To increase the West Central Integration Collaborative allocation of $21,000 to their original request of $42,000. This was suggested at the council work session without consensus of the members. No action was taken on the item. Consequently, the allocation in the 2013 budget for the West Central Integration Collaborative remains at $21,000. The next item talked about retain the originally budgeted amount for Willmar Design Center of $32,000, but increase the 2013 expenditure budget by $6,200 for downtown flowers. Following discussion, there was a motion made, seconded, and passed, and I will move the recommendation increasing the 2013 expenditure budget by $6,200 for the downtown flowers project.
Second.
A motion has been made and seconded to increase the 2013 expenditure budget by $6,200 for the downtown flowers project. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. That motion carries.
The next item we talked about was to remove the allocation of $1,000 for the Willmar Chamber of Commerce Leadership Perspectives Program. Following discussion, there was a motion made, seconded, and passed, and I would move the recommendation of the committee decreasing the 2013 expenditure budget by removing $1,000 originally allocated for the Willmar Area Chamber of Commerce Leadership Perspectives Program.
Second.
A motion has been made and seconded to decrease the 2013 expenditure budget by removing $1,000 originally allocated for the Willmar Chamber of Commerce Leadership Perspective Program. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman DeBleek?
I think by doing this, it maybe not so much the $1,000 or not, but it's the message we're sending. We're saying we don't want to work with our partners. We don't want to work with the chamber. We don't want to work with them in a positive message or attitude. We're sending a message here that we don't want to be collaborating with them. I know the $1,000 is not much. It's not a big amount, but it's something we have participated in for a number of years. The Leadership Perspective Program has brought a lot of people have gone through that, and we tap those people for our committees and our work within the city committees. And I feel that this is just a wrong move to be taking. It's just the wrong message we're sending to our partners.
Councilman
Reese. $1,000. Really? I don't know how many people we've gotten out of the leadership perspectives for commissions and for even on the council. But I would say that we've gotten our share of value out of it. And I would speak against this motion, same as Councilmember DeBleek. This is a valued resource for the city, as far as I'm concerned.
Councilman Johnson?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It may only be $1,000, but I don't think whether or not it's funded by taxpayer funds or not, that it's going to go away. as I agree with Mr. Reese, as far as it's only $1,000. So, and looking at the financial information that we had from the chamber, they don't need the money. So I don't really see where this motion would cause that program to cease from going forward on its own momentum. So,
can I respond to that?
Sure.
Well, it's still a partnership with our private, our business community, our private sector, and I just think it's, again, $1,000, and I think we need to show the support for it. We are the benefactors of this program. I think we really need to do this. Yeah, it's only $1,000, and it won't go away, thankfully. But I think that we need to show our support for it and our backing of it. And that $1,000 is just a simple backing of it.
I think Councilman Christensen had an idea that I'd like for him to pass through.
I don't know if this is the idea you're talking about, but I need some questions answered. One is, does the city own the MUC?
Yes.
We own the hospital?
Yes.
Are they members of the chamber? Do they pay dues? Anybody know?
I'm sorry, I can't answer that. I think I can't answer that question. I don't know if they are.
I believe the HRA has a membership also, and I believe that the Community Ed and Rec has a membership. Those are taxpayer dollars. We're already funding them, Doug.
Big time.
There's many dollars that come from governmental institutions that goes to the chamber to pay dues. I don't know the total amount. Maybe Mr. Baker or maybe Ken knows. Do they pay dues, Ken? I submit to you that that's taxpayer dollars, and I'm sure it's more than $1,000 in dues that they're paying, and that's helping to fund this program. It's not going to go away. I think it's a good program too, but I don't think that they need the $1,000 like Mr. Johnson said. It's only $1,000, but you know something? We got people hollering about streets in Willmar. Could help crack ceiling. Could do 4 feet. I agree with Mr. Johnson, and they're getting our money, Doug and Bruce. They're getting our money. And Mr. DeBleek, when you say we are telling them that we don't want to do this, that we isn't me. That isn't me. You said by taking $1,000 out, that we're telling them we don't approve of the program and we don't want to partner with them. We didn't say that. We just made a motion to withdraw the $1,000 and use it for a better purpose. That was it. So I would speak for this motion.
Councilman Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll speak as a graduate of leadership perspectives. I think I was in the second class. That was a long time ago. But it is really a good program. Not only what you learn, but it's all about the contacts that you make when you're in that. I don't know if $1,000 is going to make it go away or not. I don't think we should test it and find out. So I would speak against taking that $1,000 away.
Councilman Fagerly.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We talked about it at the committee meeting, and it is a good program, but 95% of the people have their dues paid by the employer. We said if the chamber needs the mayor, any council people, or city administrator, they'll go and do an hour, 2-hour session. So we are helping. You know, we should have quit doing this a few years ago when we dropped funding the community band and Celebrate Arts. Those things really help the citizens of Willmar. The chamber is doing it for their business members. And I'm a member of the chamber too. So if they have to increase my dues, so be it. But we shouldn't have to pay tax dollars. So.
Further discussion?
Mr. Mayor, thanks, Ron, for bringing out the subject of dues. paid by other entities or government agencies. I alluded to that when I've talked with you about that issue once already, about 2 weeks ago. And after I looked and reviewed, and I don't have all the data provided, the Rice Hospital is paying $5,040 a year annually to the Chamber of Commerce for dues. That's a government entity. That's our city. That's our hospital. Municipal utilities, I haven't gotten that information. Ridgewater College is paying dues. Many people and individuals from Park and Rec is paying dues too, by the way. Our Park and Rec department. And there's a whole bunch of government entities that have somehow started paying dues to the Chamber. I don't know how it took place. I don't know how it happened, but I think we need to relook at that and look at state statutes. And it's not just to the school board or the Ridgewater College. This includes Planned Parenthood. Even the Willmar Fest is paying dues to the Chamber of Commerce after we give $25,000 to support Willmar Fest. So I don't know, this issue of $1,000, it's based, is what I said, that we've never done this before prior to me asking for a complete audited or financial breakdown of the group based on need. Just like a family, who needs the money most and where should it go? Right now, after looking at their financial statement, it just makes common sense. It's not saying that the program's bad or the people that graduated are bad or the chamber's bad or anything. It's just saying we have our dollars to spend, we have to do it wisely. In this particular case, it doesn't warrant the $1,000 because they're fine.
Call for the question.
The motion has been made and seconded, as I understand it. The question has been called. And all those in favor, say aye.
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 Would you repeat the motion?
Yes.
Is it a motion or
Please do
a
that.
resolution?
It's a motion.
It's the motion just following the action of the committee.
And the action of the committee was?
Remove the allocation of $1,000 toward the Willmar Chamber of Commerce Leadership Perspectives Program. It's to remove it, is the motion.
Correct.
The motion is to remove the $1,000 from the Leadership Perspective Program. And all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no.
No.
Let's have a roll.
I was going to say, unless you could call that. Councilmember Reese.
No.
Christensen.
Aye.
Anderson.
No.
Amon.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Dockin.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
DeBleek.
No.
5 ayes, 3 nays. Motion passes to remove it.
Motion passes to remove.
Oh, can I go ahead?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. After all the adjustments to the original budget were applied, approximately $93,000 remains as revenue surplus in the 2013 budget. Following discussion, there was a motion made, seconded, and passed, and I would move the recommendation of the committee reducing the proposed 2013 tax levy increase of $240,000 designated for streets and infrastructure improvements by the above-mentioned $93,000.
Second.
A motion has been made and seconded to reducing the proposed 2013 tax levy increase of $240,000 designated for street infrastructure improvements by $93,000, which is what?
That would set the levy at an additional $147,000.
$147,000. Is there any discussion? All those, yes, I'm sorry.
Question on the, we have an organizational reviews that we voted on earlier. Understand there was did we have money in the budget to complete that review?
We do have monies budgeted for professional services within mayor and council. At this point, I believe those would be sufficient. If it were necessary to amend the budget after we do that periodically through the year, we can certainly move monies from one line item to another. But at this point, without a firm proposal, I would say I believe that there is sufficient in professional services.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed say no. That motion carries.
Okay, now we got to get a resolution. Following discussion, it was moved by the council member to approve the tax levy, and I would introduce a resolution setting the 2013 tax property levy at $3,992,735 for the general fund and $147,000 for streets and infrastructure.
Second.
A motion has been made and seconded to introduce the resolution setting the 2013 property tax levy at $3,992,734 for the general fund and $147,000 for street infrastructure. Is there any discussion? Councilman Reed.
Mr. Mayor, before we do that, I want to go back to number 1, which is the West Central Integration Collaborative allocation. And I know that you set it at $21,000. This was a recommendation that came from the Finance Committee that no action taken, that they remain at the $21,000. I don't agree with that. We have revenue available at the amount of $92,861. And before we take this action, I would like to propose that we restore it to the $42,000. This is a program that helps our community far wide, even beyond the city. It helps within the school district, and it helps within our county. It's a partnership between school districts and other taxing jurisdictions within our community. I think it is a very well appreciated, and you know, we've talked as the council being able to assist our new residents within our community to understand our practices, our policies, our ordinances, etc. within our community. And I look at what they do, and Councilmember DeBleek talked about some of that, and it was right in our packet that we had at that November 26th meeting, telling us what they were going to do. And Mr. Welch has spoken to it this evening very well. And again, I would move that we restore it to the $42,000 and take the additional from the available revenues.
Second.
A motion has been made and seconded to restore the $42,000 as compared to the $21,000 that the mayor recommended. Is there any discussion? Councilman Christensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't know how many of you read their request form, but did you notice the revenue and where it comes from? Anybody? $1.244 million from the state of Minnesota, $42,000 from the city of Willmar. That's what it said in the request. Do you know how many employees they have and what their budget is for people? Anybody know?
1 point.
Take a guess. I believe there's 26 people, and their budget is $1.14 million for people. It went up 6 or 7% from 12 to 13. Again, like Mr. Johnson, Mr. Alman said, who needs the money? Let's disperse it to where the need is most. With getting that many dollars from the state, I don't know if our $42,000 really makes a dent in what they're doing. I agree with taking the 21 out. As a matter of fact, I would say take it all out. We have a better place to put it. I know they do good. They are not going away if we don't put our money into it. Similar to the program at the chamber. They are not going to go away. They have a huge budget. I also read their projections for what they're going to do the next 2 years. It was 2 pages, front and back. I believe there's 3 items on there. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, $1.14 million budget for people, employees, and I was beside myself. But I again say, let's put the money where it belongs, and I would speak in favor of the mayor's recommendation. We're still giving them $21,000.
Any further discussion?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman DeBleek?
This group does a lot in educating people on minority issues. They are working with downtown businesses, developing downtown, economic development for minorities. And I think that would all go away if we didn't fund these. That's the part of this organization that we're funding. And they want to revamp our Human Rights Commission. You know, right now, there's many people in this community that are afraid to go downtown. They don't even know what we have down there. We have a great, vibrant downtown, and a lot of people are afraid to even go downtown because they are not aware of what the minority community is, what they can do, what they're doing in this community. I think we're sending just a terrible wrong message here about the vision and what we want from this community. And I do think that we took the funding away from them, that those things that they're doing which directly impact the city would go away.
I can't let that go without making a comment myself. I'm sorry, Councilman, but I have to make a comment on that myself. Because I am taking that $21,000 off of the budget, I've heard the terminology, are you in hot water? And I would say, yes. I've been called racist and everything else because I've taken that money out of the budget. But to me, 1.4 million or 1.2 million, whatever it was, is a lot of money to educate the people to go downtown. No.
I think you're missing the point. The $1.2 million is to educate students in the student and educational system, the school districts. They work with several school districts, this group. I think the money that we're giving them is to educate the community members, educate the minority community, and also to help educate the majority on what the issues are.
Do you feel we're getting our money's worth by the top officer in that program? Makes $80,000 a year with benefits. Is that a good way to spend the city's money?
I'm not going to respond to that.
Councilman Christensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Another way to look at this is, you know, if on their request again that dollars that were coming from the state of Minnesota, that is taxpayer dollars. That's our money. I pay to the state. We all pay to the state. So they're getting money from one taxing entity, and then they're asking us to give them some more money from another taxing entity. I think we're giving them plenty through the state. I really do. I mean, how often can you keep tapping all these government entities? You know, you can only take so many dollars. Now remember, every dollar that we're taxed in Willmar is, what is the city share of it? 17 cents, 20 cents? It's very little. The majority goes to the county and the school district. As if we're taking $41,000 out of our 17 or 20 cents out of each dollar to give to an entity that's already getting $1.2 million from the state. That just doesn't make sense to me. And if I'm off base, somebody explain it differently to me.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman?
at our work session, somebody brought up, I don't remember who it was, about the reason why this was started in the first place back in 2002 or so. Anybody enlighten me on that, when it was started and why it was started? I think there was some brief discussion about it. It was to gain extra points or to for the All-American City Award. Was that something that was part of that? That's what I recall, anyway.
I'm sorry, I can't answer that. I think it was Councilmember Anderson or Councilmember Fagerly who perhaps
It might have
spoke
been
to
one
that.
of the two. I wasn't sure. I just need to clarify that for me.
Could I clarify on that?
Councilman?
I think what we talked about at the work session was that group was used as an example of how we work together, and it was one of the things that was presented for the All-American City. The program was not developed to try to get us points for the All-American City application, not at all. It was developed to try to enhance the working relationships between all the groups, all the different segments of our community.
Okay, thank you.
And it was a partnership between Genio and the city and the school district. But it wasn't supposed to go on forever on the city's part. We were going to end it eventually. So.
We have a motion on the table, unless there's further discussion.
Mr. Mayor, I guess I'm going to need clarity here because the motion may be out of order. The motion on the table is to adopt the levy. And if I didn't quite hear the ending words of the motion, but if it's to restore the West Central Collaborative allocation to $42,000 and take it out of somewhere that's not increasing the levy, it has nothing to do with the motion on the table. If it's to increase the levy by $21,000 over the dollar amount listed, that's in order. But I didn't think I heard that.
No, you did not.
So then the motion's really out of order. It has nothing to do with the
I
levy.
didn't want to adopt anything and not be able to change it later. If there's a more appropriate place to do it, fine.
Well, the only appropriate motion really be to amend the levy from the stated numbers of 4139,734 to 4160,734 to get the 21,000 up. But to add that onto a resolution that doesn't address the levy is a motion out of order.
What was our, do we have the ability to go to that extent with our prior actions?
You are $93,000 higher than at this point what you needed and what you reported to the county. You can't increase what you reported to the county on September 15th. Right. You can take away less tonight by $21,000 if that's your goal on the levy. If that's what's before you is the levy.
I think perhaps the finance director might be able to clarify your options.
The action of the council to this point is to reduce the preliminarily certified levy by $93,000, so you have the option to restore up to that dollar amount.
The original levy that we certified in September was $240,000, and the action before you is to reduce that levy by $93,000. You can change that, but you cannot go above the $240,000 that was certified in September.
Okay, so the appropriate motion would be to certify the amount with the additional.
It would be $4,160,734. If you want to add $21,000 back in there, which would close the gap between the mayor's proposed budget of $21,000 and the original request of $42,000. If that's your goal.
And is that an appropriate motion at this point to amend?
You're amending the levy. It's not dedicating it to the West Central Collaborative. It's just amending the levy.
All right. Do I need to withdraw my previous motion?
Or it was just
out of
don't
order?
intend to increase the levy, you would. it would be out of order.
So, according to Robert's Rules of Orders,
if your goal is not to reduce, not to change the levy, if that's what I heard at the end of your motion, then your motion right now has nothing to do with the motion on the table. So it would be out of order. You can bring it up afterwards, but we have one on the table.
All right, so it's called out of order, and I'll make the motion later.
Unless you intend to, your intent is to raise $21,000 back from the cut of $93,000. You need to speak up now.
Well, I thought that was what I thought I was saying.
I didn't hear, and that's why I'm asking for clarity, to raise the levy from the stated dollar amount here. I heard to take it out of other expenses.
What did you understand, Councilmember DeBleek, in the motion?
I understood that you were going to, instead of the $93,000 reduction in the levy, that we would only reduce it by 72 and add that 21 back in.
Yeah.
That was
That's your intent. I need that clarity.
That is the intent.
Mm-hmm. That's appropriate then.
All right.
Is there any further discussion?
Yeah.
Councilman Anderson?
I'm confused. We aren't changing the dollar amount of the levy. You're moving some dollars around, but the levy is going to remain the same, is it not?
That's what we're asking for clarity from the motion maker. And my last understanding, I would not write it that way. I would change the levy dollar amount, increasing it by $21,000.
You can't increase the levy.
You can't, excuse me, I think just to clarify, what I believe I'm hearing from, or what we believe we are hearing on the motion is to increase the levy an additional $21,000, which you may do because the original levy that we certified had an increase of $240,000. If you want to certify an additional, what's being proposed here is $147,000, you would have to propose an additional levy of $168,000. I believe that's correct.
Yes. The action from the Finance Committee was reduce the preliminary levy by $93,000.
Mm-hmm.
It's my understanding that Councilman Reese' action is to restore $21,000 of that levy.
Okay.
And take it from the $93,000?
Yes, it would reduce that amount to 68, or to
72.
72.
Reducing $72,000.
Paying more money.
It is still less than you've given the county auditor on September 15th, so it's allowed by law. You are reducing it tonight by $93,000. This amendment is asking to reduce it by $72,000.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, the certified levy on September 15th was $4.232 million. That was the preliminary certified levy. At that point, you can reduce that amount, but you cannot raise it.
Right.
The action of the Finance Committee was to reduce that amount by $93,000 down to $4.139 million. That was the action of the Finance Committee, not finalized until action by the full council. So you can restore any amount back to the $4.2 million. And I believe Councilman Reese' action, his intent, is to add $21,000 back to the amount the Finance Committee is recommending to be reduced.
Which we are still how much below our maximum?
Correct.
Do you have that amount?
$72,000.
Yeah.
It would be 72.
Well, it isn't exactly 72, but yeah.
So instead of the $93,000,
we're 72,000 below.
$72,000 would come off of the levy.
That is correct.
That's correct.
If this motion were to pass, that is correct.
Councilman Christensen?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. What I understand is that we had a motion on the table. Dennis made it and seconded it.
Correct.
Doug asked to amend, or is his motion to amend?
He's correcting his motion to do it properly, and that is to amend the stated resolution dollar amount.
Before we vote on Dennis's motion?
I have to.
Yep, you have to do the amendment first.
So he's amending Dennis's motion?
Yeah.
Correct. By $21,000.
I'd have to do that before we passed it.
And the 21 would come out of the 93, which would knock it down to 72.
Which is 72,000 less than the people are holding in their document of how it'll affect their property next year.
Everybody understand?
Is there any further discussion?
Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead.
I guess I'm a little confused. It seems to me that we had this exact same discussion a week ago when the Finance Committee met with full session with the rest of the council. And the decision was made at that time to go with the recommended amount, $21,000.
I spoke against it.
I think, yes, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
I think, yeah, the Finance Committee made a decision. I did not have an opportunity to vote on it at that time.
Everyone participated in the discussions.
I still spoke against it.
And I
Couldn't
still
vote on
spoke
it.
against it.
Councilman Henderson?
I just want, before we vote, I want Kevin to read that amendment. I understand the intent of it, but what exactly are we saying? Then I think we should probably vote.
Well, in its simplest form, the original motion was to set the levy at $4,139,734. This amendment is not allocated to the West Central Collaborative. It is amendment to set the levy at $4,160,734. That's all it is. That's all that would be in order.
I'll call for the question. We got to move
This is the
forward.
resolution, right?
Not the amendment, sir.
Motion.
Deal with the amendment first, then the resolution, either amended resolution or the original resolution.
Okay. With the amendment, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no.
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 I would say the noes have it.
Yes, sir. I'd say 2 to 6. Then you have the original resolution that you have before you, now before you.
Okay. And the original amendment was?
Motion.
original motion.
To resolution.
The original resolution is to set the levy, grand total at $4,139,734. And we do want to point out the second paragraph sets the HRA at $170,000 even.
And that would be a roll call. Is there any discussion? Roll call.
Councilmember Christensen.
Aye.
Anderson.
Aye.
Amon.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Dockin.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
DeBleek.
No.
Reese.
No.
6 ayes, 2 nays. It carries.
That carries.
Okay. The next item is a resolution adopting the 2013 budget. Following discussion, there was a motion made, seconded, and passed, and I would introduce a resolution adopting the 2013 budget as presented in the amount of $31,725,416.
Second.
The motion has been made to introduce a resolution adopting a 2013 budget as presented in the amount of $31,725,416. Any discussion? Roll call.
Councilmember Anderson.
Aye.
Amon.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Dockin.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
DeBleek.
No.
Reese.
No.
Christensen.
Aye.
6 ayes, 0 nays, or 2 nays.
That motion carries.
Yes, sir.
Okay, the next item on our agenda, it says it's item number 9, maybe feels like we've gone through that, but it really was the second item on our agenda. And that was just to talk about some future agenda items that would be including the Western Interceptor final budget, updated 1995 contribution policy, and LELS 2012 budget amendments. That concluded the business of the committee. Unless there's questions, I'd move to file the minutes.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to file the minutes of the Finance Committee report for November 26, 2012. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. That motion carries. We'll go into the Public Works Safety Committee report for November 27th, 2012. Councilman Reese.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First item on our agenda was the consulting services for the western interception and the need for additional consulting services. And the original agreement with the engineer didn't include construction management services for the storm sewer work that was bid as an alternate within this project. And the scope of services includes an additional fee of $17,060 for this. And staff is recommending that the city enter into an agreement with Donahue and Associates to perform the construction management services for that alternate bid. So I would introduce a resolution that we enter into the contract amendment with Donahue and Associates in the amount of $17,060 and authorize the mayor and city administrator to sign on behalf of the city.
Second.
A motion has been made and seconded to enter into a contract with the Donahue and Associates in the amount of $17,060 and authorize the mayor and city administrator to sign on behalf of the city. Is there any discussion? Roll call.
Councilmember Amon.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Dockin.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
DeBleek.
Aye.
Reese.
Aye.
Christensen.
Aye.
Anderson.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 nays.
And that motion carries.
If you recall, city staff was directed by the council to pursue RFPs for the airport operations supervisor, and the contract would be separate from the responsibilities of the fixed-base operator, and the two parties responded and both were interviewed. After further consideration and follow-up, it was narrowed to one entity proposing to perform the tasks for $76,000 a year. It was noted that current janitorial work the city pays $6,000 per year for would be included in the proposal along with all the mowing that is currently done by the Public Works Department. And it was staff's recommendation to approve the proposal from Eric's Aviation Services for 2 years. It was noted that the work performed under this contract would be eligible for state reimbursement. I would introduce a resolution to enter into that 2-year agreement for Airport Operations Supervisor contract with Eric's Aviation Service, Inc. for $76,000 on an annual basis and authorize the mayor and city administrator to sign on behalf of the city.
Second.
A motion has been made and seconded to enter into a 2-year airport operations supervisor contract with Eric's Aviation Service Incorporated for $76,000 annually and authorize the mayor and city administrator to sign on behalf of the city. Is there any discussion?
Question, Mr. Mayor.
Councilman
Charlene, is it possible, or will this be reviewed as far as the progress or how well the job's being done? Is that can be evaluated by the Public Works Committee, or?
We can certainly do that. I mean, this will be managed just as our other as our previous airport contract was managed. Megan Sauer serves as our contract manager for the airport, and she certainly will be working with Eric's Aviation and monitoring if the service is satisfactory. And of course, the contract will have provisions if it is not. But our expectation is that the service is going to be satisfactory.
Yeah, my expectation is there too.
Yeah. But we will certainly evaluate. It is a change in service, and so
yes,
we will certainly evaluate that.
Thank you.
Any further discussion?
Mr. Mayor?
Councilman?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It states on here that the contract is eligible for state reimbursement. Is that the total? They'll pay the total amount?
I would defer that to Mr. Peterson to respond. I think he has.
Council Member Christensen, Mayor Yanish, members of the council, the amount of money that's available for reimbursement will not be the full $76,000. It's calculated by MnDOT Aeronautics what our allowable reimbursement is. But just like in the past, the city has never been reimbursed its full cost, but we are reimbursed a portion of it. It's eligible for reimbursement, but not 100% eligible for reimbursement.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
Dockin.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
DeBleek.
Aye.
Reese.
Aye.
Christensen.
Aye.
Anderson.
Aye.
Amon.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 nays.
And that motion carries.
The next item was in regards to an upcoming hearing for redetermination of ditch benefits, which includes County Ditch 23 that lies within our city limits. And at our meeting, Lauren Ingleby, who is the county ditch manager, told us about this, and he is telling us that the city is currently charged a rate of 52% of the cost for ditch maintenance within the overall system. Now, if the city were to take over responsibility of the ditch outlined on the map that's enclosed, it's estimated that the city's rate would be decreased to approximately 26%, with a $5,000 to $10,000 per year savings. He also informed the members of the committee that a contractor has been hired to clean out a section of Ditch 23 that runs just east of 5th Street Southeast from the area of the bus barn to 19th Avenue Southeast. And this would be completed prior to the transfer of benefits at no cost to the city. Discussion from there was held pertaining to redetermination costs for viewing and the establishment of the 16.5 buffer strip, foot buffer strip. And it was noted that the city can assume responsibility of any or all portions of the ditch, and the possibility of using a section of Ditch 23 near the former wastewater treatment plant for expansion into a stormwater holding pond as discussed. First of all, I'll introduce a motion that the city assume the responsibility of that portion of Ditch 23 lying within the city limits, which is outlined in the map that's in your packet.
Second.
The motion has been made and seconded that the city assume responsibility of that portion of the County Ditch 23 system lying within city limits as outlined on the map. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no.
Now, just for future reference, the committee had discussion about the possibility of the contractor's already been secured, Lauren told us, for that work. But we, as a committee, also discussed the possibility of widening from 5th Street all the way to the other side of the ditch as it exists, all the way along 5th Street, or whatever sections we can without disturbing any of our infrastructure for additional stormwater retention, it would be, right? So, and it would aid in both our treatment and our holding. So that's no action here tonight, but I think the Public Works Committee needs to have a discussion in regard to that. The fourth item was explained to us by Planning and Development Services Director Peterson, which was in regards to our Eagle Lake lift stations. And during rain events, the city is receiving excess flow from the Eagle Lake area. And there have been times that there's been backup into homes. The city's performed home inspections within the city limits, but not in the Eagle Lake Sewer District. And upon review of the contract, it doesn't appear that the city has the authority to enforce compliance by property owners within that district. And it was staff's recommendation to meet with the chair of the Eagle Lake Sewer District and explain the situation, hoping for voluntary compliance. And when the term of the contract expires, which is in 2016, the city will incorporate language allowing authority to enforce penalties on violators. So there's no action, but there will be discussions. The last item was for information only, and it was in regards to a city resident, Jan Franklin, had been bitten by a dog that was running at large in September. And her immediate concern was if the dog was concurrent with vaccinations. Police chief was there and explained that when the police department responded to her call, they found the dog was within its owner's residence. The owner was cited and ordered by a judge to provide proof of licensure within 10 days. Ms. Franklin was questioning if the ordinance could be revisited to require the dog to be impounded until such time as it's known that whether it is rabid or not. And Chief Weifels explained that the ordinance does not allow for seizure of animals from an individual's personal property, and staff was directed to research state health laws to make certain no other action could be warranted and inform Ms. Franklin. So that was for information only. And unless there's questions, I'll move to file minutes, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
The motion has been made and seconded to file the minutes of the Public Works Committee report for November 27th, 2012. Is there any discussion? Councilman Christensen?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At the beginning, the report had mentioned that I was at the table with the members, and I was not. Mr. Johnson was sitting in for me, and I came in late, and I stayed in the audience. So that should be reflected in the minutes.
Can we correct that?
Yeah, the minutes can be, you can adopt them as amended, and they will be amended.
My motion is to adopt them as amended.
Second.
The motion has been made and seconded to adopt the motion, to adopt the minutes as amended. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. That motion carries. Community Development Committee report.
Mr. Mayor, can I?
I'm sorry.
I have a question on Public Works.
Okay.
Mr. Engelby is here. Inasmuch as Ditch 23 sits in the 4th Ward, one of the things we talked about some time back was when we cleaned that ditch out, the possibility of both making it deeper and slanting the ditch sides to increase the volume in that ditch that it would hold. Is that something that potentially we could be looking at as a city once we assume this responsibility? We could make that ditch deeper, we could make it wider, we could slant the slope of the ditch to increase capacity.
Jim, we're going to have further discussion at Public Works about expanding the ditch all the way from 5th Street to the east bank.
Councilman Dockin, if you want to do the community development.
I will, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. This is for Thursday, November 29th. All items were for information only. Item number 1 was public comments, and there were no public comments offered at this meeting. Number 2 was Willmar Design Center, again for information only. Representatives of the Willmar Design Center were in attendance to discuss several items, including historic preservation and infrastructure in the Central Business District. Richard Engen said that historic preservation has long been a goal of downtown groups. He said it would be wise for the Design Center representatives to meet with downtown property owners to gauge their interest in establishing a historic preservation district. Some buildings could then be eligible for historic tax credits if placed on the National Register. He said many of the buildings are in need of repair and financial investment to preserve or maintain them. A professional historian has encouraged preservation efforts. Legacy grant money could be a source of funding and an easement and an assessment of downtown buildings as a first step. Committee members expressed concern over placing limits on property owners restricting the use of their buildings. It was acknowledged that there could be certain requirements for maintaining properties in a historic district. The Design Center will move forward with exploring the concept of a historic district in downtown Willmar. Design Center representatives also offered some comments regarding infrastructure concerns in the downtown, it is noted that the parking study and the gateway study directly impact infrastructure. Both issues will come back to the Community Development Committee as the process continues. Councilmember Amon expressed concerns about dirty sidewalks and how to deal with maintenance. Item number 3, Mid-Central Research and Outreach Center, again for information only. Kathy Swantes, Regional Director of the University of Minnesota Extension, was present to discuss operations at the Mid-Central Research and Outreach Center, McRock. Currently, 7 or 8 employees are at the facility, primarily working with the Extension Service. McRock has a full-fledged research lab, which is available to the business community. A major focus is for academia to assist businesses with research and to bring intellectual property and ideas to the marketplace. The University of Minnesota operates an avian research lab on site as well. A test kitchen is also available for public use. Nutrition training is offered to seniors, youth, and food stamp recipients. Obesity education is also offered. There is a new lower-level conference room that is available for public meetings and teleconferences. It is equipped with the latest in meeting technology. Another service offered by McRock is internship matching with local businesses. The success of McRock programs will be measured by the number of companies assisted and the long-term impact on the local economy. The U of M Carlson School of Management is currently developing a strategic plan for McRock operations. And Mr. Mayor, Kathy Swantes is here. If anybody has any questions, I guess, for her.
Does Kathy care to speak?
Pardon?
Does Kathy want to speak?
If there are questions.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Item number 4, Holiday Inn site redevelopment, again for information only. Staff presented plans and building elevations for the upcoming redevelopment of the Holiday Inn site. The Holiday Inn Motel will be redeveloped into a Best Western Plus motel, and the Comfort Inn will be remodeled into a Holiday Inn Express Inn and Suites, with a 3rd floor added to expand the number of rooms on site. Restaurant options will also be increased. The existing Green Mill restaurant will be remodeled to function more as a primary sit-down restaurant, and a new entity called Hurricane Grill and Wings will be added to the site to offer more of a bar atmosphere. Staff reviewed changes to the parking and traffic flow on site and pointed out that a major facelift the building was going to receive. It was noted that stormwater concerns had been addressed in the planning process, and there was very little in the way of increased impervious surface that will result from the changes. The committee stated that they liked the looks of the plan and looked forward to the project beginning in early 2013. And Mr. Mayor, unless there are comments, I would move to file these minutes.
Second. A motion has been made and seconded to file the minutes of the Community Development Committee report for November 29, 2012. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed say no. That motion carries. The announcement of the council committee meeting dates. Councilman Anderson.
Finance Committee will meet Monday the 10th at 4:45.
Councilman Amon.
Labor Relations, Wednesday, I believe it's going to be Wednesday the 12th at 4:45. And just to note that we will be discussing the issue of conducting ourselves at meetings, or either which type of plan, the Roberts Rules of Order or the Mayor's Rules of Order for Minnesota. So if there's any research you want to discuss it, might move the meeting along a little further to people that are on the committee. Thank you.
Thank you for the information. Councilman Reese?
Public Works Safety will be meeting on Tuesday, the 18th at 4:45.
And Councilman Docken?
Thursday, the 13th, I believe, at 4:45, conference room number 1, City Office Building.
Which leads us to the miscellany.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor.
I'm sorry?
One more committee. The Community Ed and Rec Board will meet at noon on Friday, December 7th.
Noon on Friday on December 7th. Thank you. Miscellany, Councilman Christensen, did you have something that you wanted to report on?
I did, but I'm going to recant on that, but I will take advantage of another point of order that I can make, and that is to change my vote on the RFPs for the restructuring of, what was the motion? You know which one I'm talking about.
Request for RFPs.
Yeah, we got to find it back.
Organizational study RFP.
So it will be an 8-0 vote, much to the chagrin of Mr. Nelson.
Okay. Mr. Mayor?
Pardon me?
Will you give me a liberty to make an announcement?
Sure.
Just to remind our viewing audience that the vacancy for the 4th Ward Council member position starts tomorrow, December 4th at 8 a.m. and continues through December 18th at 5 p.m. Filing fee is $5.
Thank you very much. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
You did.
Motion has been made and seconded to adjourn. We are adjourned.